46 offices inaugurated in Kaduna. NNPP Board of Trustees suspends Kwankwaso. And away from Nigeria, Sudan Army Chief visit Egypt as deadly violence grips Darfur. Hello and a warm welcome to News Live here on Viewer Television. And my name is Phillips Levin. Following the opening of Lakdo Dam by the Cameroonian authorities, the federal government has constituted a high-level committee led by Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, to prefer solutions to avert flooding and its consequences. The minister made this known during a press conference held by the committee members immediately after the maiden edition of the stakeholders meeting on the Lakdo Dam yesterday in Abuja. She said the meeting was at the instance of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu following her presentation at the maiden Federal Executive Council meeting on Monday. Now, I do explain that the federal government is interested in the prevention and mitigation and preferring solutions to flooding and its consequences, hence the move to avert any negative consequences. Now, everyone is part of the engagement and sensitization effort of the federal government. Persons in the affected areas of the flood are enjoined to move to high lands for safety, while state governors are to stand up to their responsibilities on the evacuation of persons in such areas to protect lives and properties. Nigerian security forces have rescued dozens of captives, mostly women and children, held by Islamic extremist rebels in the country's hard-hit northeastern region, an army said. The Nigerian army said late Monday that 25 captives were rescued during clearance operations by its troops in Borno State, Goza district, a hotbed for the jihadi violence that has upended lives and livelihoods in the region since 2009, when Boko Haram extremists launched an insurgency. 14 of captives were first to be rescued on Saturday in Gubara village, while 11 others were freed on Sunday when troops raided the rebel hideouts in Gava village, both around 130 kilometers, that's 80 miles, from Borno State capital. Maiduguri, said Army spokesman Onyema Nwachukwu. The Army shared pictures of the freed hostages that included toddlers. Most of them look malnourished and wore worn-out clothes, and suggesting that they might have been held for a long time. The Federal Road Safety Corps has arrested a vehicle owner using both foreign and Nigerian number plates on the same vehicle. The Corps Public Education Officer ACMBC Kazim said in a statement on Tuesday in Abuja that the arrest was in line with the ongoing nationwide clampdown on unstable, unregistered and improperly registered vehicles. Kazim said that the operation followed public outcry about the security risks posed by a noticeable violation of road traffic regulations by some motorists, including those using foreign and Nigerian number plates on the same vehicle. He said the FRSC patrol team arrested one of the perpetrators who was using two number plates, BBJ 746AA and CV51UMC, on his Volkswagen Golf 3 car. The Nigerian Ports Authority and the Nigerian Customs Service have renewed cooperation to boost exports and facilitate trade. The renewed synergy was expressed when Bello Koko, MD, CEO, MPA, visited the Acting Controller General of the Customs, Bashir Adewale, MFR, at the Nigerian Customs Headquarters in Abuja. The meeting focused on enabling the ease of export processing by eliminating all procedural bottlenecks that constitute delays and affect the competitiveness of Nigerian goods, especially agro-allied products, in the international marketplace. Whilst commending the NPA for creating export processing terminals, which have advanced the fortunes of exports, The Customs Board assured that the NCS was finalizing efforts at streamlining the multiplicity of custom units, checkpoints, evacuation of overtime cargo from the port's speedy relocation of the custom facilities standing on the rail link of Apapa ports, and resolving all challenges to pave way for the optimization of Ikorodu lighter terminal. Given that balance of trade is crucial to strengthening the value of the Naira, this renewed collaboration between the Nigerian Ports Authority and the Nigerian Custom will add fresh impetus to the efforts of President Tinubu at growing the national economy. About 7 people have died and 2 others injured following a building collapse in a camp for people displaced by jihadist violence in northeast Nigeria's Borno State, militia sources and residents told newsmen. A classroom sheltering scores of internally displaced persons in the garrison town of Mongonu caved in around 19:30 GMT on Monday, following torrential rains on previous day, the sources said. 7 people were killed in the incident and 2 others were injured and presently in the hospital, anti-jihadist militia leader Musa Kaka disclosed. Mongonu, 135 kilometers, that's 85 miles from the regional capital Maiduguri, is home to thousands of IDPs who fled their homes and villages to escape the jihadist insurgency, which has also killed 40,000 people. Now we'll be going on a break, and when we return we'll be looking at more stories, which includes wicked demolishes drug dealers den in Abuja. We have details of that and more after this break.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm at the Envoy Hotel, Diplomatic Drive 305, here for a business weekend. It's been an amazing stay. Conference hall and business facilities here are stylish and innovative. The Envoy Hotel is luxury, esoteric, opulence, for ultimate comfort.
Discerning travelers, we are more than just a place to stay. We are an icon of comfort, style, and thoughtful luxury. We are Envoy Hotel.
Welcome back, and it's good to know that you are still with us. Remember, this is News Live. Before we move forward, here's a recap of our top stories. 46 officers inaugurated in Kaduna. Also, NNPP Board of Trustees suspends Kwankwaso. Sudan Army Chief visit Egypt as deadly violence grips Darfur. Moving forward, for an officer in the Nigerian Armed Forces to progress into the ranks of major and equivalent position in high services, senior corps participants remains a criterion. On this note, the Armed Forces Command and Staff College Jaji has inaugurated officers comprising 147 in the Army, 59 in the Navy, 41 in the Air Force, and 10 international students inaugurating the officers. The former commandant of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Air Vice Marshal Ebenezer Alade, retired, in his presentation highlighted some of the challenges middle-level officers can encounter, as well as bringing ideas in taking the military to greater heights.
Most of you are expected to assume the role of staff officers after this course. Hence, the training you will receive in the college within the next 11 months will no doubt contribute towards ensuring you perform your assigned duties efficiently and effectively.
The Commandant of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Air Vice Marshal Hassan Alhaji, assured the Corps' 46 participants that the college will be fair and objective in assessing their conduct.
The honors now rest on you to justify the confidence that your respective services and countries have reposed in you.
During the one-year program, the Senior Corps 46 students will be exposed to study tours, groups, and field presentation, as well as analysis. The leadership of the House of Representatives says it will champion the amendment of the Act establishing the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative to make the agency more functional and act against wrongdoers in the petroleum industry. The Honorable Ike Gunu Gochinyere, the Chairman, House Committee on Petroleum Resources, that's downstream, made the disclosure during the working visit of the NET headquarters in Abuja. He said the committee will also ensure the NET receives adequate funding to enable it to perform other duties without hindrance, in line with the vision and transparency posture of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. The lawmakers assured NET that the committee will work it out that information and data released by it will be part of the debate to reposition the petroleum industry and give the audit reports that require legislative backing, while the House will also recommend privatization of the nation's refineries. The Board of Trustees of the New Nigeria's People's Party, that's NNPP, has reportedly suspended its national leader, Rabiu Kwankwaso, for 6 months over alleged anti-party activities. Now, reports has it that suspension followed crisis of confidence that started within the party over the last few months since the end of the 2023 elections, with accusations and counter-accusations between the different groups within the party. Recall also that a few days ago, the National Publicity Secretary and some others were suspended. This is not unconnected to the internal crisis emanating within the party, which gave rise to the alleged accusation as well as counter-accusations, a move rejected by the party's Board of Trustees. The Federal Capital Administration, FCTA, has demolished an illegal market popularly called Kaswandere, a suspected hideout for hoodlums and drug dealers, under the supervision of the Minister of the FCT. The Director of the FCT Department of Development Control, Mukhtar Galadima, confirming the development on Tuesday, August 29, disclosed that the market on Hassan Musa Katsina Street near Paduma 2 in Asokoro Extension was a dangerous spot to residents and passersby. According to Galadima, the place had been turned into an area where criminal activities are carried out despite relentless efforts of the administration to sanitize the location. He said miscreants operating in the area was also affecting the aesthetic quality of the entire environment and must not be allowed to continue. A Kano High Court presided by Justice Farouk Lawan Adamu has restrained the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, and the Code of Conduct Bureau from investigating the financial activities of Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission. The restraining order was sequel to an ex parte motion filed by the Attorney General of Kano State, the Kano State Anti-Corruption Commission, and the chairman of the commission, Muhui Magaji Remingadu, against the 3 federal anti-corruption agencies, which recently initiated investigations into the activities of the commission. The court, after reading the ex parte motion, including an affidavit duly sworn to by Khalifa Awal Hashim, and having heard from the Attorney General of Kano State, Issa Deberi, directed the parties in the case to maintain status quo ante bellum. The court further gave an interim order directing the federal anti-corruption agencies from meddling into the affairs or taking any further steps in relations with functions, duties, affairs of Kano State Anti-Corruption Commission, pending the hearing and determination of the originating summons. The Delta State Police Command has announced that it arrested over 100 suspected homosexuals carrying out a wedding ceremony in a hotel in Delta State. In a post in its official X, as formerly Twitter handle, the state police said it will parade the suspects shortly. Reports have it that since signing the anti-gay law in 2014, people believed to be homosexuals have been arrested and paraded by security operatives. And now we'll go on a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at business, international, and entertainment news. Don't go nowhere. The Nigerian Labour Congress and the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria have disagreed over the management of the Contributory National Housing Fund. The NHF is an offshoot of NHF Act of 1992, which mandates all employers in both the private and public sectors to make monthly remittance to the fund. It is an initiative of the federal government aimed at mobilizing of funds for the provision of affordable residential houses for Nigerians. The disagreement between the labor union and the nation's apex mortgage institution stemmed from recent threats by the former that it will pull out of the contributory funds owing to its dissatisfaction regarding how the fund was being managed. While speaking, the group head of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, Mrs. Timan Elayo, countered claims made by the NLC President Joe Ajaero, who told an investigative hearing organized by an ad hoc committee of the House of Representatives that administrative bottlenecks in the process of assessing the mortgage scheme had created room for corruption in the system. The former Statistician General of the Federation, Chief Executive Officer of the National Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Yemi Kale, has said he resisted the urge to further change the country's unemployment data gathering methodology during his time as the head of statistics body. He spoke barely a week after the NBS released a new data that put unemployment at 4.1%. The agency had put unemployment at 33% in fourth quarter of 2020. He noted that a committee in charge of reviewing the minimum number of work hours to count as employed felt 1 hour did not make sense because income generated within that time frame was not necessarily livable. He further stated that the income generated from 20 hours of work in Nigeria will equate to that made from working 1 hour in the US. He further opened that the most important point of data is to give policymakers the tools they need to understand the problems, provide solutions, and monitor the impact of those problems. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's crude oil and gas mining sector recorded a negative real GDP growth rate of 13.43% in the second quarter of 2023. This marked the 13th consecutive quarter in which the sector has posted negative real GDP growth, extending a downturn that began in the second quarter of 2022 when the COVID-19 pandemic led to the global economic shutdown. That included Nigeria. The oil refining subsector has also been in decline, contracting since the second quarter of 2018. The underperformance of Nigeria's refineries has compelled the country to rely on imports for refined petroleum. In terms of GDP composition, both crude oil and gas production and the refining of oil contribution about 5.34% and 0.01% respectively. Crude oil and gas contributed 9.5% to GDP in 2020. In nominal terms, these sectors together account for 2.946 trillion naira, with crude oil and gas production making up 99% of that total. The Federal Executive Council on Monday unfolded a 3-year economic revival plan to address the social and economic challenges affecting the country. The inaugural cabinet meeting, which was held at the council chambers of the Presidential Villa, Abuja, was presided over by President Bola Tinubu, who unveiled his vision for economic growth, prosperity for all, and ending poverty. Addressing the ministers, the president admonished them to achieve the first phase of his administration 8-point agenda within 3 years, urging the members of the cabinet to work hard to revive the country's economy because Nigeria is in a difficult time. The president said the ministers have the capacity to make a difference in the ministries they have been assigned to oversee.
In this 21st century, where all the information we need is now in the palm of our hands. News from around the world, entertainment, celebrity gossip, sports, and much more. The only thing that you need is the right source. Viewer TV is now on the go. Simply check us out on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter for all the information you need.
And away from Nigeria, nearly 2,000 people have been convicted in France over nationwide riots sparked in late June by the fatal police shooting of a teenager during a traffic stop near Paris. Justice Minister Dupont Moretti said on Tuesday. The minister had called for a rapid, firm and systematic response from the magistrates to the worst urban violence in the country since 2005, with many courts holding fast-track trials for suspects. In a statement, Dubod Moretti said that out of 2,107 people tried, 1,989 had been found guilty and 1,789 had received various prison and sentences. The minister also said that 20 judicial facilities had been vandalized during the 4 nights of clashes, costing the taxpayers €5 million, which is $5.4 million. The rioting began on June 27th after a police officer shot dead a 17-year-old boy with North African roots during a traffic stop west of Paris. The riots were contained after deployment of around 45,000 security forces on successive evenings, including elite police, special forces, and armored vehicles. Sudan's army chief traveled Tuesday to Egypt on his first trip abroad since the outbreak of war in April, with the latest violence killing dozens of civilians in battle-scarred Darfur. General Boran is expected to hold talks with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on the latest development in the Sudan and bilateral ties between the two countries. The council said in a statement as Abdel Fattah al-Burhan departed, medics and witnesses said 39 civilians were killed, most of them women and children, in the shelling of Nyala, Sudan's second city in South Darfur state, where fighting between the army and paramilitary forces has intensified. The Sudanese general was to hold talks with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, a key ally on the developments in war-ravaged Sudan and bilateral ties. Now, Sudan's ruling sovereign council said Boran is dressed in civilian clothes rather than the trademark military fatigues, was seen boarding a plane in Port Sudan and later being greeted by Sisi on the tarmac at Al-Manan Airport in a video released by the council. 2 Hong Kong men were arrested on Tuesday for colluding with a foreign country or with external elements to endanger national security, police say, as part of Beijing's long-running crackdown on what remains of the city of pro-democracy movement. China in 2020 enacted a sweeping national security law in Hong Kong after the finance hub saw months of huge and sometimes violent protests calling for greater democratic rights. Authorities have arrested more than 260 people under the law, with around 80 of them convicted of awaiting sentencing. Police said the 2 men arrested Tuesday, aged 33 and 59, were suspected of conspiracy to collusion with a foreign country or with external elements to endanger national security. The 2 men, who authorities did not name, were linked to the 612 Humanitarian Relief Fund, a now-defunct group that helped pay legal and medical costs for people arrested during the 2019 protest. One of the main opponents of Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, Ethiopian political figure Bekele Gerba, has applied for political asylum in the United States, denouncing the deteriorating political situation in Ethiopia and saying he feared for his life. Released in January 2022 after 18 months in prison, Mr. Bekele said on Monday that he had resigned from his post as vice president of the Moro Federalist Congress, the main opposition party representing this ethnic group. Mr. Bekele has spent a total of more than 7 years in prison since 2011, imprisoned twice by the coalition dominated by the Tigrayan minority that governed Ethiopia for nearly 30 years, and then by the government of Mr. Abiy that succeeded it. And on entertainment, Ayudeji Makun, popularly known as AY, has revealed that the only belonging he had left with him were those he traveled with before the fire incident at his house some weeks ago. Recall that the comedian's Lagos residence was gutted by fire early this month. Speaking about his predicament in a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, AY, who expressed how he felt about losing all his valuables to the fire incident, however, added that there was no going back to square one. He said it feels unnatural to realize that the only shoes, jewelry, and clothes I have right now are those ones that I traveled with. There is no such thing as going back to square one. The movie producer, actor, and entertainer had earlier confirmed via Instagram that his family was safe as they were out of the country at the time of the fire outbreak and gave gratitude to God for his protection. Legal representative to Eminem has sent a letter to the Republican U.S. presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy asking that he stop performing his music as part of his campaign for president. The presidential candidate has performed the rapper's hit Lose Yourself at several campaign events. His campaign team informed CNN that it will comply with Eminem's request, and the U.S. politicians do not always need express permission from artists to use their music in their campaigns. Under licensing packages available for purchase by the campaign, they can get legal access to more than 20 million songs for use at political rallies. However, an artist can remove their music from the list, as Eminem had just done. Nigeria's 96th Oscar Committee and the Nigerian Official Selections Committee for the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences is calling on Nigerian filmmakers to submit their feature films for consideration in the International Feature Film IFF category of the 96th Annual Academic Awards. The IFF award is presented annually by the Academy to a feature-length motion picture produced outside the United States that contains 50% or more in a language or languages other than English. It requires that films submitted must meet other criteria, including accurate, legible English language subtitles, shooting formats, and theatrical releases. On the call for submission, the newly appointed chairperson of the NOSC, Stephanie Linus, stated how honored she is to take on the esteemed role of NOSC chairperson for the Oscar. And that's all on Newsline. But before we go, a quick look at our top stories for this evening. We've had 46 offices inaugurated in Kaduna. And also NNPP Board of Trustees suspends Kwankwaso. Plus, Sudan Army Chief visits Egypt as deadly violence grips Darfur. And of course, many thanks for your time and of course your company. My name is Philip Slevin. Please stay tuned for the rest of our programs and have a lovely evening.